Portuguese and Spanish today. We're going to start with our regions of South America now. So again, let's just whip through them. We've got Caribbean North. Everybody?
Caribbean North.
And we've got
Andean West.
Andean West,
Southern Cone.
Southern Cone, and Brazil. So let's go ahead and start with the Caribbean North right up here. So again, we always like to look at defining the regions. Why did we pick the Caribbean North as a region? Well, this one is the only one with Caribbean. That's why we like to pick these names that are indicative of the main character and features. So this one does have Caribbean flavor, Caribbean shoreline. It's also hugely diverse. It's the only one that's connected to the land bridge right here. It's also got some different colonial entities. It's got Dutch, British, French, and Spanish. And last but not least, the cocaine trade of Colombia. So let's go ahead then and begin with Colombia. Colombia, a very beautiful place, but it's separated by mountains. There's some people that visit like to say there's about 4 different Colombias. There's this area of the east, then you've got the mountains, and you've got the coastal areas, and you've got the north that's connected to the land bridge. But a very beautiful, beautiful place. Mostly homogeneous population, Spanish indigenous mix, mestizo mix. And yet it's been at war. It's been at war for years and years and years, and very hard on the people. Why is it at war? Cocaine. So again, we've talked about cocaine a lot, and we're going to talk about it more today. It's really driven by demand. United States is driving the demand, and mostly it's poor farmers in areas. We can look at maps. You can find maps online of the huge cocaine areas, mostly in the east here, in the jungle areas and these plains off the side of the mountains that are coming down from the mountains. Very wet, very fertile. And the cocaine is produced, and then they don't make very much money, those farmers, but it supports the families who are very poor in that area, and then the cartels make the money. And so in Colombia, there's actually been a fight for the control of the government. So, at first stage there's insurgency, there's different cartels that are all vying for power, for control of Colombia, and of course the government is fighting, and the people get caught in the crossfire, often killed. And so there's been many wars, and there were just horrible. La Violencia, that was terrible. 200,000 people at least killed and disappeared, probably more that weren't even counted. But now there's kind of an equilibrium where the president has an amnesty program to try to make the peace. Amnesty, because if there's no amnesty given for people who are related to the violence and to the cartels, then there would just be silence and nothing can get done. So it's kind of a stalemate. But right now, I think relatively speaking, it's better than it was. So, but again, very beautiful place, and unfortunately so famous for the cocaine production and smuggling and sales trade. So then we have Venezuela. Venezuela is another very beautiful place. What's less known about it is its culture. What's more known about it is the oil. So it is very much known for oil. Hugo Chavez was voted in because the people became very fed up. The oil profits weren't going to the people, and so Hugo Chavez, very leftist leaning, so much so, almost communist, and in fact, is not very friendly. It wasn't very friendly when Hugo Chavez was in with the United States, and would kind of poke them in the eye, poke the U.S. in the eye whenever possible. Friendly with Castro, with the Russians, with the Iranians, pretty much Cold War, all Cold War enemies of the United States. And so there was even an oil program where Hugo Chavez would trade skilled workers from Cuba for oil, and at times would even kind of taunt the U.S. with trying to give oil away to New Yorkers at one time and saying that the U.S. didn't even take care of the heating needs of its people, and so it would supply, generously supply the oil for them. So there's not been a great history, but now things are changing a little bit with new leadership, and so Venezuela is beautiful though, and the culture, the food, just fantastic, beautiful culture and foods and music and people. So, and it's a very beautiful place. Now here we have the Guyanas. We have Guyana here, Suriname and French Guiana. Unfortunately, Guyana is known for Georgetown and the Georgetown Massacre, where its cultist leader led some people to live there, and people lost their lives by drinking cyanide cocaine, including many, many, many children. And a senator that came to visit was shot in the jungle, and just terrible happenings there. But these are all fairly poor, independent. Again, Guyana was settled by the British, Suriname by the Dutch, and French Guiana is still, it remains a French dependency. There is a spaceport in French Guiana, which is really terrific. And it has a much more diverse economy. But again, it's a French dependency. Guyana and Suriname they're independent, but the economies, there's a lot of poverty there, and while it's a lot of plantation, and when there's a lot of poverty, we know that that's when a lot of deforestation occurs, and the hardwoods there are bringing big money to very poor people, and so slowly the rainforest is getting taken down. And actually for the plantations, in Suriname especially, Africans were brought in as slaves, but then another thing started happening. People were brought in and really are indentured. A lot of Asians were brought in, South Asians from India, and they were brought in, and they didn't have any transport costs and didn't have any money to pay for food when they got there, and so they're really indentured and they can't really leave. And after a while, they owe so much money. They owe more money than they're making. So there was that going on in Suriname, and there still is. There's this indentured kind of work with overseas workers going on in lots of parts of the world, still to this day. Okay, so I think we'll break it up right now so we can look at some of those videos on cocaine smuggling and production. Thank you. See you next time.